In this Clair Obscur Expedition 33 guide, we're going to be taking a look at Verso and how to play him in combat. At first glance, he's definitely one of the easier characters to play in the game. He's pretty straightforward with his perfection meter. However, he has a lot of nuances to him, and he gets a lot of benefit from using certain skills at certain ranks, which isn't inherently obvious when you first start playing. And there are some things you need to know about the perfection gauge that aren't explained well in the game either. So in this video, we're going to go into what skills to use, how to get the most out of the perfection gauge, what weapons to use, and we're not going to be talking about his story or anything like that. Okay, so taking a look at Verso's perfection gauge, this gauge increases Verso's damage as his gauge improves, and the way his gauge ranks up is through dealing damage, parrying, and dodging, and it caps out at rank S. This is the most damage you're going to do with Verso at rank S, and there are a couple things to this. First of all, the damage that you deal is not a reflection of how fast your gauge goes up. It's actually the hits you deal with damage. So the more hits you deal, the faster you're going to rank up. Not one big hit will rank you up very high. It's better to have multiple hits in order to rank up quickly. And it takes 3 hits to get to rank C from D. It takes 5 hits to get to rank B from rank C. It takes 7 hits to get to rank A from rank B. And it takes 15 hits to get to rank S, roughly. I say roughly because these numbers have fluctuated by like 1 periodically, and I'm not exactly sure why. But that's roughly the amount of hits it's going to take for you to get all the way from rank D to rank S. That doesn't factor in parries and dodges as well, because those will also increase your perfection and will count roughly as a hit when you do them, just like counterattacks will also count as a hit. So keep that in mind when factoring this in, that you may see your gauge increase when it's not even your turn in combat, simply because you're parry, dodging, and counterattacking. It's also important to note that when Verso gets hit, his rank will go down by 1. He won't lose 1 perfection, he will literally lose 1 rank. So it's very bad for Verso to get hit, and he thrives on not being hit in combat. And if you're thinking, well, I'll just put a damage shield on him, that way if he gets hit, he doesn't take any damage, the rank will be lost whether he has a damage shield or not. So the only strategy here to keep his rank high is to avoid getting hit altogether by parrying, dodging, radiant countering, and counterattacking. And it's important to know before we get into skills as well that free aim shots and base attacks count towards ranking up his perfection gauge, and each free aim shot gives you 1 perfection. So this is a viable strategy, just unloading all of your AP into free aim shots into the target in order to rank up very quickly, and then using your base attacks with something like combo attack 1 and combo attack 3 in order to increase the number of times he hits when doing base attack, and just playing that way if you want. And there are a couple weapons in the game that reward that strategy as well. So you can play that way, or you can lean into the skills that have multiple hits in order to rank up more quickly. So moving on to the skills, obviously when you first start looking at skills for Verso, you want to look at things that hit multiple times. This is going to increase his perfection gauge the fastest. So looking for multi-hit skills is going to be the first thing that you want to take a look at. Secondly, you want to look at each skill and see what their bonuses are for using them at certain ranks are, because some skills will actually benefit from using them at certain ranks. For instance, if you look at the Phantom Stars ability, this skill costs 9 AP, but if you use it once you're at rank S, it only costs you 5 AP, making it much easier to use. And since this skill deals so much damage to all enemies on the screen, you're predominantly going to want to use this when you're at rank S anyway, so that's a really good skill to have, and you want to try and save this for rank S when possible. And if you take a look at the Assault 0 skill, this skill does increase damage when used at B rank. And one really good thing about this ability as well is that it's 5 hits, so that's a great way to gain perfection. And each critical hit will also generate an additional perfection. So if you have a crit focus filled with high luck, and maybe some Pictos or Luminas that boost critical chance, you could potentially generate 10 perfection when doing this, helping you get from, whatever rank you're at to higher. But ideally, you probably want to try and use this at B rank when possible. The next skill we're going to take a look at is Light Holder. This is a skill that costs 4 AP, which is not much for a 5-hit attack. It does medium single target damage. It does light damage too. And what's really great about this ability is it ranks you up 1 rank when you use it. And as I just mentioned, the higher you go in rank, the more hits it takes to get to the next rank. So this is best used at like A rank, where it takes you a lot of hits to get to S. And you also get rewarded for using it at 8 rank by getting extra AP for using it at A. So you want to try and use this at A when possible, not only for the extra AP, but also because you have the longest gap in hits in order to get to rank S. Next, let's take a look at Strike Storm. Strike Storm deals very high single target damage. It deals 5 hits, which is great for building perfection. It uses your weapon's element, so it's not like damage like the previous skill. So maybe you're fighting a light resistant enemy, this would be a better option than the previous one. And critical hits generate 2 additional perfection instead of 1, so it can generate even more. The upside of Light Holder is that it automatically ranks you up to the next rank, so if you end like mid-A, it'll still get you up to S. So it has a bit of an advantage, but it only deals light damage, and sometimes you might want a different damage type. The Strike Storm also has increased damage if you use it at C rank, which means you can just, fire a couple free aim shots or take 1 turn, get to C rank, and then the following turn use Strike Storm and shoot yourself way up there to like B or A rank very, very quickly. And you could even theoretically use Strike Storm to get to A rank and then use Light Holder afterward. And these are the sort of things you need to start to notice about the skills is, like, what is your rotation? How many perfection do I need and to get to the next rank? And what's the best way to go about that? And sometimes that changes, while you're in combat, because you might parry or counterattack some things that are not on your turn. So your strategy might have to adapt on your turn because you moved up a rank, or maybe you're close to moving up a rank and now maybe you just need to fire 1 free aim shot to rank up, and then you can use an ability more effectively. So that's kind of the things you need to keep in mind when playing Verso, and you need to adapt on the fly as his rank, moves up and down in combat. Next, I want to bring your attention to Leadership. This skill costs 3 AP, and it reduces Verso's rank and gives 2 to 4 more AP to other allies, and if you use it at rank C, it gives +1 more AP to other allies. This is a great way to fill up AP on other allies. It's a very good support skill for Verso, and it's best used, obviously, when you're at lower ranks, as you haven't invested as much time getting up into perfection, and obviously the best place to use it would be at C to get the extra AP. But this is a great way to keep your comrades topped up in combat with AP so they can use big damage skills, and it's definitely worth considering just using a turn of Verso very early on in combat to flood them with AP so they can just do whatever they want on their turn. I don't recommend using the skill when you're probably like A or S rank, because you would lose a lot of perfection compared to the little bit you would lose the lower and lower rank you are. Okay, next we're going to go through some of Verso's weapons. I'm not going to go through all of his weapons and explain all of them, but I'm going to go through a handful of them just so you can kind of understand how they change the flow of combat with Verso, and so that you get some examples and you can kind of do this yourself by looking at what they mean. First, we're going to take a look at Abyssaram. So Abyssaram is a decent early game weapon for Verso, predominantly because it basically gives him a damage boost from the very beginning of combat through the entire combat, in exchange for not being able to reach his max potential damage. I think at rank S it's like 200% increased damage. So at rank D, beginning of combat, he gets 50% and gets 50% the whole way. The best thing about this is when you're learning new enemies and you don't know the parry timings and dodge timings, then you don't tend to be punished for getting hit because you still maintain that 50% increase in damage. I would say on average, most Verso players are going to be able to stay at least C or B anyway. So it's not that great, but it could be very good for beginner, newbie, Verso players. Additionally, it increases your base attack damage, so if you do like the strategy of free aim shotting everything and then unloading with base attacks with combo attack 1 and combo attack 2, this can also work very well for you. The rank D healing isn't that great. You won't be at rank D very long, so it's not likely to play much of a role in this weapon. The next weapon we're going to take a look at is Confuso. This weapon makes it so that light damage can burn on critical hits. This weapon has light damage as its element, so any skill that has weapon element will be light, and there's lots of light skills to use as well. So this means you want to hit a lot, like multi-hit skills, and have a high crit chance when using this, so you can set burn also. And also, when you apply Mark, you'll actually apply 3 burn instead. So if you use an ability that would apply Mark, it will apply 3 burn instead. You can increase this with the double burn Picto, by the way, which is really nice. And there are like marking shots that allow you to mark with shooting free aim, so this can stack up burn, and burning shots can stack up burn as well. And it also increases burn damage by 50% per rank up to 300% at rank S. This means that, the higher rank you go, the more your burn damage is going to be effective on enemies. It's a really, really deadly weapon, and it encourages the use of using your light abilities that hit multiple times, or abilities that use weapon element to hit multiple times. Lots of critical hits, and in order to stack up burn. The next weapon to take a look at is Cruel Ram. This makes it so that you don't lose rank when you take damage from powerless enemies. Powerless enemies is a status effect in this game that reduces the damage that enemies do to you. It's not a very common status effect. I think there are only like 5 or 6 skills in the whole game that can apply it, so it's not that easy to do. Minoko has the most skills that do this, so definitely bring Minoko along if you're playing with this weapon. But it also adds +1 perfection when you're hit powerless enemies as well. So if you throw this on them with Minoko and then attack them, you're going to gain more perfection, allowing you to rank up more quickly and get to S rank. And another great thing about this weapon at level 20 is that it applies powerless when you counterattack. So if you're good at parrying and counterattacking, then you can apply this yourself, and that can help keep you ranked up faster. The next weapon we're going to take a look at is Colt Am. This makes it so that you don't lose perfection when you take damage, but you lose it when you're healed. So this is bad for like really difficult fights where you might need some healing, unless your plan is to just let yourself get hit until you die and then revive, which you can absolutely do. I've done that on plenty of difficult fights. But this is going to prevent your perfection loss, which is really good in my opinion. Most fights in the game, you can just kind of brute force your way through without having to heal and using the revive strategy. So that's really, really strong in my opinion. That's going to keep you from going down. It also makes it so that you gain 2 AP on counterattack. You gain a little bit anyway on counterattack, but this will increase it, which should make it so that you have 9 AP on the following turn or very close to it to unleash, devastating attacks. And you also gain 1 rank on counterattack, which is nice. The thing is with this weapon, you probably won't need to gain that rank, because it usually only takes like 2 turns to get up to rank S, or maybe 3 turns. So unless you get a counterattack on like the very first turn, you're really not going to use this all that much. Because keep in mind with this weapon, you can't really lose rank unless you heal yourself, so the counterattack would be better suited to rank you up if you did. The next weapon we're going to take a look at is Delaram. This makes it so you start battle at rank B instead of rank D. That's really good in my opinion, but you have 50% of your health. Your max health isn't shrunk, you just have 50% of your max health, and that's relevant because the next bonus makes it so that you recover health when you base attack, which kind of rewards the free aim base attack strategy with combo attack 1 and combo attack 3, allowing you to hit 3 times. So you can basically, on your first turn of combat, almost completely top yourself back off, and you're already starting at rank B, which is really nice. So you should be able to get to rank S or close to it on 1 turn. Maybe, just maybe, you'd be like at the top end of A and then rank S the following turn. Additionally, at level 20, it makes you powerful when you are rank B, which is what you begin at in combat, and this increases your damage. So that first turn when you're rank B, you're going to have even more damage, which is nice. And next, we're going to take a look at Dualiso. This makes it so that you play again after a base attack. This weapon has much lower attack rating than a lot of the other weapons in this category, but you get attacked twice in a row. This is better earlier on in the game than later on in the game, because later on in the game, you'll be able to attack twice in a row anyway. But for the beginning of the game, this is really nice. And again, this synergizes very well with combo attack 1 and combo attack 3, allowing you to hit multiple times each time you base attack. And that kind of plays into the free aim base attack strategy. Level 10 also increases base attack damage, and level 20 gives you more perfection when you base attack. So theoretically, you could get very, very close to reaching rank S with this weapon because you play back to back. So that would be a really, really good weapon for reaching rank S in like 1 turn. And lastly, we're going to take a look at Cereso, which is really unique in my opinion because it makes it so the bonus damage that Verso would typically get from his perfection gauge going up applies to all of his allies at half value instead, and he doesn't get the bonus damage. So if the cap is 200% or 300%, when you're at rank S, your allies are going to get like 100% or 150% damage increase, which is great. Especially if you have like Mael in your party or CO in your party and you have like a really good setup with them. You can deal tons and tons of damage that way, so it's a really good weapon in that respect. It also makes it so that perfection gained is increased by 1 while powerful. You can get a Picto that makes you auto-powerful beginning combat for 3 turns, so this can help you get up to rank S much more quickly. And it also makes it so your support skills cost 1 less AP, which is okay. It's not the greatest thing ever because, by the time you're using this weapon around level 20 or so, you probably won't have too many AP issues. But it's not the worst bonus ever. When it comes to Pictos and Luminas for Verso, the things I look for are combo attack 1 and 3. This improves the amount of hits his base attack does, which is great. Because he can do the free aim shot base attack combo to build up his perfection meter, this is just really good to have if you're playing that playstyle, which is really simple. And then because of that, also anything that impacts free aim shot that gives you more AP when you free aim, or burning on free aim, marking on free aim, all these are good. And also anything that really impacts burn if you go the burn route with him as well. He can do a lot of burn with some of his weapons and things like that. So double burn, critical burn, things like that are just going to improve his effectiveness against burning enemies. And unlike some of the other characters, particularly if you go the base attack, free aim shot strategy, you don't really have AP management problems with him. so you don't really have to focus as much on AP management. So attribute-wise, your attributes are really going to be dictated by what weapons you use. You're going to want to match your attributes to whatever weapon you decide on using or whatever couple weapons you decide on using. You're going to be kind of bouncing around between weapons until you figure this out. But I highly recommend Vitality for health, simply because there's a lot of abilities that are based on max health, particularly healing. So that's really, really strong. And it also keeps you alive longer to learn attack patterns when you whiff parries and stuff the first time you're facing enemies, because you just don't know what their attacks are. And then agility is also really strong. Going sooner in combat, more often in combat, means you typically win more. And luck is also really strong because a critical chance is so strong in this game. There's a lot of weapons, a lot of skills, a lot of Pictos that all reward critical hits. So you definitely want to be on the lookout for those 3 stats typically. You can use might and defense if you want, but I generally find that some combination of those 3 stats typically works the best for me. So that wraps up my guide on Verso. I hope you got something out of this video. It wasn't meant to be like a rigid build guide or anything like that, but just kind of explain some of the nuances of how Verso works. There's some math involved when you play him in order to calculate how many more hits you need to do in order to get to the next rank, and sometimes it's hard to see exactly because you're just kind of looking at the gauge on the right, but you'll get the idea as you play with him, and it'll make your play style more proficient. And the idea of this video is to kind of just get you to think that way, so when you're playing with him, you understand how to play him well. As always, if you have further tips for Verso, maybe something I didn't mention, or you have more questions about him, leave them in the comments, and I will try and respond as quick as I can.